Two black and whites. Pussycats, what you doing? Too busy scoffing. It's their favourite hobby apart from sleeping is eating. I'm coming back as a cat. Right, let's get a few more things done. There's a mindset here that affects me, but I'm aware of it, so I deal with it. If your to-do list gets to a certain size, there comes a point where you worry so much about how much you've got to do that you end up not actually doing much of it, because you worry about how much you've got to do and it goes round in circles. And the only way to deal with it is to do something, is to get on with something and cross a few things off the list, because it'll play on your mind if you've just got too much to do. Now you will have to excuse the noise in the background, but the guy next door is ex-army. He got blown up in Afghanistan, so he had to retire out of the army. And he's a great guy, and he's got a couple of kids, and like him, his career learnt the need to be able to communicate and move in silence and leave no mark where you've been. That's my mindset. That's the way I believe I should work in the world. And unfortunately the kids making all the racket out there are not his, they're visitors. But my kids were always told at an early age, nobody around you is deaf. Why are you shouting? There's no need for it. And people 3 or 4 gardens away don't necessarily want to hear you. They might be having a nice quiet nap in their garden. And as a consequence, my children are very quiet, peaceful people. They move quietly in the world and don't disrupt others. And that's how I like to be. Unfortunately, I can't have any effect whatsoever on visiting people next door. So you're going to have to put up with some screeching and ridiculous noises in the background. It's the same as barking dogs. Dogs don't need to bark. And when they're young, if you train them such that they only need to bark when there's a stranger at the door or the gate to alert you, otherwise they don't need to. And they'll learn that as life goes on with doggies. Cats don't make a lot of noise, so don't have to worry about them. They tend to make a noise when they are in need of something and they're telling you, I need something, like my food bowl is empty. It's about the only thing they ever need, quite honestly, with cats. Anyway, a couple more things on the to-do list. And my to-do list is getting bigger. As I do my updates, I'm finding things that have been on the list and been forgotten, or coming across things that I wasn't aware of. So the to-do list is getting bigger. The way to stop it getting bigger is to take some things off of it. So that's what we're doing today. A couple of different ones to look at here. We got Oncidium Twinkle Cinnamon, and basically that is far too big for its pot. I suspect its base root system in the bottom of this pot is getting a bit tired. There's a lot of algae in there for a start, and that I want to get rid of. And let's see what we've got. What I do know is I have a lot of new growths and a lot of new roots growing at this point in time. So any roots that are not too good, and immediately there's a bit of a whiff of mushrooms. This was down on the repot list a while ago and didn't get done. Well, if you leave things, you cause problems. This should have been done probably 2 or 3 months ago and it didn't get done. Now most of these roots here are gone. They're dead. They're gone. Luckily I've got plenty of new ones coming. But nonetheless, squashed up in that pot where it's virtually eaten the media, and the media is starting to go, would not have done this plant any good. It needs dealing with. It should have been dealt with a while ago. I don't want to split this plant, but that decision has not been made yet. Now most of the media has come out quite nicely. Now I've got a major decision. What do I do with all these old roots that are not very good? Do I assume that in some new media they may grow on? Some will. Those will. These won't. That one will. Yeah? And don't get confused when you're repotting between roots that look green and healthy that have actually got algae on them, and they're not healthy at all. Well, I said I don't want to split this plant, and I don't want to. But if I put these old roots in new media, they're only going to fail. A lot of these roots are aerial but can be teased to come out from amongst the plant and allowed to point downwards. Yeah, a lot of them are pointing downwards anyway, so given a bit of time they will grow into new media. It's just a matter of where is the oldest part of the plant, and it's obviously here. Yeah, old pseudobulbs with either few or no leaves. So this part of the plant serves no purpose anymore. Not with a big plant like this. If this had one new growth and 3 old pseudobulbs, the old pseudobulbs could do with staying, especially if they've got at least 1 leaf on. But there is no natural division for this plant, and I've got new growths around the outside. Here, here, and some of them are in the middle and here. But I also have some old bulbs around the outside. Most of them are in this area. So I think I can get away with taking a few of these older bulbs off round here, which will allow the area inside here. If I just pull that bulb now, like that, and the leaf that goes with it, and the one next to it, you'll see what I mean. Yeah? Now take a few sheaths off, and what have we got now? What we've got now is an area around the outside of the plant that's got active roots, many of which are pointing downwards, and they can get into media now. I can just tease them down like this. Big old pseudobulb here. The next one is newer. Another old one here. All I'm doing is teasing away the outside of the plant, which means that the newer roots against some of the newer growths are capable of getting into the media. So I'm not going to split it, I'm just going to tease out older parts of the plant to leave room for the roots to get into the media. So I'm not going to take too many off. These older bulbs have bloomed, they're not going to do it again. I can't, that old bulb there I would like to take off, but it has a new growth coming out, so I can't. Again here, new growth next to that bulb, can't touch it. That bulb there, new growth, new growth. What about that little one there? That one can come off, as can that one. Now without splitting the plant, I've given it the ability to rejuvenate by allowing the area with the new roots to get down into the media. That way, when I hack off a lot of these older dead roots in what was the centre of the plant once, new roots have got somewhere to go. So that needs a haircut. Yeah? So I'll do that, and then hopefully these new growths are going to push on and stick new roots straight down into the media. There is a natural division there, but it will be one old bulb and one new growth, and it's probably better off staying with the plant. So we'll give that one a trim, but that's all I need to take off, and get it in a pot where these roots can get down in. And just grab hold of as many of these aerial roots as I can and get them pointing downwards where they will get into media. That's all it needs, is just some roots to get down into some new media and get these old manky ones off. So that's that one. This one is Maxillaria picta, and this is in new growth mode, and I haven't got in my notes at what point new roots come out on this plant. You know, do they come out with the new growths? Do they wait till the new growths to mature? Oof! But it's got a shed load of algae all around the outside of the pot. See, that was put in large bark. It's, the root system, looking at it, does not really warrant large bark. It warrants medium, or even possibly a mix of medium and small. But some of these roots really have grabbed hold. So that's going to take a bit of rinsing under the tap. Older roots are okay. I'm just looking at the new growths, and at the moment that nice big fat new growth has no new roots. But they won't be too far behind. Even if this plant has to wait till these bulbs are maturing before the new roots come, they won't be too far away. Again, the back end of the plant. I don't need that, I don't need that. I'll get rid of it. Do I need to get rid of any more? If I take these bulbs off, they've still got leaves on, so they still serve a purpose. Unfortunately, there's a couple of non-leaf bulbs right in the centre of the plant. To get them off would split the plant, which I don't want to do. I'd rather keep it intact and joined. So we'll give that root system a rinse off, get as much of the older bark off as I can. Yeah, it doesn't smell all mouldy and fausty, so it's not gone. So any bits that stick on there are okay, but you can see there's quite a lot of algae on the bark, and if that bark sticks there, all I can hope, which I'm reasonably confident of, is that the hydrogen peroxide spray will kill the algae. It doesn't necessarily kill bugs, it kills snails, but not necessarily scale that are in the media, but we'll see what we can do with that. That needs a clean up and a rinse off under the tap, and it is naturally two plants down through the middle if I wanted to, but I'm going to keep it as a single plant. Mainly because I'm probably not going to keep this plant long term, because although it says Maxillaria picta on the label, the blooms aren't right. I think it's an alba form. So it hasn't got the pretty patterns and the colours I wanted from the blooms. Anyway, clean up time. We'll get these run under the tap, see if I can see any dead roots to trim off, and then we'll be back and stick those two in pots. Yeah, see, when you get to that, although that's a leaved bulb, it's not attached, it's wobbling like hell. So it's going to come off, simply because it would probably rot at the base anyway, having been disturbed. That really is two plants. One plant would have a leafless bulb, a bulb with leaves that are going, because they're old, a bulb that's not very big with some leaves, and one new growth. What sort of plant would that be? Not very good. No, I'll leave it attached. Right, we'll have a clean up and then we'll come back and sort out some new pots for them. Okay, the Maxillaria first. Trifle worrying, one of the bits of rhizome where I pulled one of the bulbs off did have a look of purple around it, but it was only in one tiny little bit, so I'm hoping it was a natural pigmentation, which does happen, rather than the dreaded. But either way, as a precaution, this will now get a spray with the fungicide. It's better to be safe. It's not going to do any harm, is it? But it's growing new growths. I don't see any new roots at the new growths. That's not as a result of being infected with anything, it's just not its time. They will come soon. So what I'm going to do with this plant is squash it. I'm going to twist it so that all the new growths are together, and then I can put the oldest part at the back of the pot and leave room for those new bits to grow. Now this root system it's like a halfway house. It's not fine, but it's also not coarse. So just conveniently I happen to have some medium bark with some moss that I've just used on one of the other plants. So I'm just going to use it up. Simple as that. I'm just using it because it's there and it will be okay for this plant. It's not a very fine root system, and most orchids like a bit of air around their roots, so a larger media is not the end of the world. But I'd rather not have too many air gaps on this one. So I'm trying to make sure I'm right down into the root system through the clear pot. As I said, I would rather have those opaque pots, and I'm now on a hunt for those. These clear pots are just too prone to algae, and it brings round repotting time quicker than it would do normally, because the algae makes the blinking bark break down faster. So it's better if it's not there. and there's far less of it if the pot is opaque and doesn't let so much light through. So I'm on a hunt for some of those now. It's a certain size pot now, this size, where I've only got the crystal clear ones left. I haven't got any of the opaque ones, so I'm stuck with these until I can find some alternatives. Right, I'm just going to lift that plant slightly because the bulbs are a little low. So just by easing it up and giving it a shake, the media can then get down a bit lower. Especially old leafless bulbs. I mean, some people say if you bury those it doesn't matter, they won't rot. I'd rather not risk it when I don't have to. There's no need to bury older bulbs. Right, base of the new bulbs are quite near the media. So when and eventually they do decide to push some roots out, which is probably going to be quite soon, they will get into something. But just to make sure they get into something, I'm picking some smaller parts of media with some moss to just make sure the base of the plant has got some loose moss around it. It's not packed tight, it's just there, so that as soon as those roots come out they get into something. Right, that's that one done. And now the twinkle has had a haircut in the centre of the oldest part of the plant. So it's had a haircut in there. You can see that's just a stumpy rhizome. But all the good roots are now round the outside. Yeah? And quite a few of these aerial roots are perfectly capable of just being teased down into what will be media in a minute. But that is a fine root system. So although there's still a bit of medium bark in that mix, by adding some smaller bark in there, it'll be perfectly adequate. So I'll go and get some smaller bark now. Okay, yes, that is white. It's a warm day, sunshine. I've been sat out in the garden. I need as many of these aerial roots to at least be pointing downwards, or preferably just tucked in the top of the media, so that they become the new root system. And that's going to be a bit fiddly, but it needs to be done because the older part of the root system is gone. Yeah. Right, so I've got quite a bit of crocking in the bottom of this because, as you can see, it's now a very shallow root system. Hopefully it will extend and grow down into that section, which when it does won't matter that it's got a lot of air in it. But in the meantime it's a shallow root system, so I don't want the bottom of the pot getting all soggy. So well, there's new growth all over the place on this, so it's no good trying to find the oldest part of the plant to put against the side of the pot, because there isn't. It's got new growth coming out all round and up the middle, come to think of it. So the important bit is to make sure that as many of these aerial roots just gently get tucked down in. Now this, if I start pushing hard now, I'm going to break roots. These are tiny little fine roots. So this is a teasing job, not a pokey job. It's difficult to find words to express what you mean when you're talking about pressure. But it's a gentleness that is firm enough to get the pot, you know, to get the roots firm, but little bit at a time. When you don't want air gaps and you want all the roots in contact, it's got to be a little bit at a time. Great handfuls won't do it. And also trying to push down great handfuls exerts more pressure. And more pressure means more broken roots. So just little bits in at the top of the pot. And you can see what you're doing through the side of the pot. Look! Check it! How far down has that media got? Does it need to be pushed a little bit more? Have I left an air gap? Just look at what you're up to. Don't blindly bash around with great clumsy fingers, which mine are, so I do have to take care. I tend to always exert more force than it's necessary, and since I've been doing orchids, I've just had to ease up. I tend to be the sort of person that, like, you know, can you undo this jar for me, and I'll take the top of the jar off trying to get the cap off. I'm heavy-handed generally, so I've had to learn to be gentle. And that's what I'm doing now, gentle. There's a great big lump there, we don't want that. And an awful lot of these aerial roots are already just tucked in the surface of this media. And if they grow, which there's no reason why they shouldn't, they go straight down in the media. I'm actually holding a new growth here. I know there's new roots in that area, so that's an extra gentle bit there. But I do need the base just in contact, not buried, just in contact. Always looking. Don't take your eye off the ball. You see that new growth? It's just sat on the media now. See the new roots poking down? That's what I'm after, as many of these aerial roots and new roots down into that media as possible. They will have to acclimatise now. See, like the edge of this plant, look at those two new growths there. If I'm clumsy in this area, they're going to break off. So I'm using an old bulb to push the plant out of the way, not the new bits. That way I can just get a little bit down to their base. And any new roots that they produce, down in the media. Now here I've still got quite a few aerial roots, so there I can push a bit harder, just to tuck the ends in, not snap them off, just tuck them in. And I think that's about as good as it gets. Yeah, we got some visible new roots down in there. A lot of them are not round the edge of the pot, they're more in the middle, but they're still in media. Yeah, happy with that. So that's Oncidium Twinkle Cinnamon, and now hopefully those new growths. Nurse, it's getting late in the day. Hopefully those new roots will now take off. You look, there's a lot less aerial roots than there was before. Yeah, and that's because a lot of them have just been tucked down so that their tips are in the media. Got no real big air gaps. There's a few around the bottom, but that's where the crocking was. And some of the roots are visible near the edge of the pot. I think that one will now take off like a rocket. But it's not going to do it in bone dry media, so that now needs a good watering, as does the other one. And I'll see you next time. There's more to do, but that's 2 off the list. I feel better now. The list is smaller. And at least during today, the list can't get any bigger because I've finished for the day now. I've got a little bit more filming to do for my updates. Not much. I'm nearly there. I know you haven't seen a lot of them, but they're done. They're out of my way. And today, the mounts should have been watered, and they didn't. They didn't get watered because I ran out of time. And so all they got was a hard spray. Basically, I used the sprayer. And I whizzed round with that. Just clean water, no fertiliser or anything, and I hydrated all my mounts in probably less than 10 minutes. That'll do them for today, and tomorrow they can get a water and a feed, and hopefully finish off the filming. So, see you next time, and remember, go quietly in the world. Don't leave huge big footprints, noise and stuff. It's not necessary. Be a gentle person in the world, you know? And don't get yourself bogged down with things to do. Just do some of them now and again. No one big mass of chores that I must get done today. Do some, and then think at the end of the day, I've got some stuff done today. I've still got some stuff to do tomorrow, but I got some stuff done today. And I've got some stuff done today, and now I'm going to go and sit out in the garden with my wine and my cats and relax, because it's nearly flipping tea time. See you next time.